If I gave you two financial paths, one that produced $1.3 million of passive wealth over the last 10 years, and another that cost you $606,000 over that same period of time, and both start off with the exact same monthly housing payment, which one would you choose? Many people these days, frankly, would choose the second one, and many people may wish they hadn't. Let me start off today with a very simple, but maybe a very uncomfortable question. If you spent the exact same amount of money on housing every month for the next 10 years, with one option being owning and the other option being renting, and at the end of this 10 years, would you want to be richer or poorer? Richer, of course, right? But here's the truth about this. Most people never stop to think about it. The monthly payment is often similar, the lifestyle even looks similar, but the financial outcome in just 10 years couldn't be more different. And so today, I'm going to share with you some real numbers based on a real couple of clients of mine, a real family, a real case study of their real life that quietly produced over $1.3 million in passive tax advantage wealth without having to deal with tenants, without owning rental properties, and without changing their lifestyle at all. And here's what's fascinating. My client and her husband do generate this $336 in passive wealth every single day. And frankly, after 10 years, it's got to the point where they don't even think about it anymore. Because see, this asset isn't a business. It's not a rental property. It's not a stock portfolio. It's simply their primary residence, the home they live in every single day. But it's theirs all the same. And before we go any further, I want to address with you two very loud narratives that you probably hear every single day. Narrative number one, renting is smarter than owning. There are countless social media experts out there telling people that buying a home is a bad investment, and that renting is freedom, and that owning a home is a financial trap. When I hear that, I always ask myself one question. What are these people really selling anyway? Some $497 digital course that leads to a $2,500 course that leads to a $10,000 course? Because frankly, the math they're using doesn't support it, and the wealth data never has. There's a second narrative, and that one goes like this. Homeownership is unaffordable. The American media has relentlessly pushed the idea that between 70 and 75% of U.S. households believe that owning a home is no longer affordable, so people, by default, choose long-term renting. And here's what's interesting about this one. Over 50% of U.S. households own their homes debt-free. And historically, primary residence equity accounts for the majority of the net worth of these American families. So how could 75% believe that they can't own a property when 50% of them already do? I don't get it. Anyway, yes, I know home prices and mortgage rates do matter. But in my world, the idea of walking away from ownership entirely is not a realistic solution. Because see, I'm not here to sell the hype, but I'm not here to bash renting either. And I'm definitely not here to pretend affordability challenges aren't real. But what I am here to do is this. Let's let the numbers speak for themselves. Because when you compare renting versus owning over a 10-year period, starting with the same monthly dollars, the outcomes are frankly staggering. About 10 years ago, my wife, who happens to be an exceptional realtor that I work with regularly, and I worked with a couple of great clients of mine who were ready to buy a new primary residence. Our approach was to find a home that had what I call high demand characteristics, the secret to our success in all of our real estate ventures over the years. And our approach was strategy driven. It wasn't driven by luck, it wasn't driven by timing, and it wasn't some hot market accident that we had to jump on right away. This couple had a purpose. One Saturday morning, they settled in on a lakefront home priced at $640,000. And the property wasn't anything special. It wasn't a mansion. It wasn't some custom palace with 10 bedrooms and a bowling alley. It was a very normal 3-bedroom, 3-bath ranch on a basement. And what made it special wasn't just the house. It was the high demand characteristics of the house and the lot together. This property had, number one, over 1 acre of usable land. Number two, a waterfront lot on a private 88-acre lake. And they're not making any more of those anymore. It came with a double slip covered dock. It had county water and sewer, which in this particular market was a home run because many of the homes were limited on what you could build on them because they were on septic tanks. It had natural privacy with convenient access to all the shopping and the restaurants and entertainment that they were looking for. It was full of mature old growth trees, and it had strong redevelopment potential. These are not cosmetic upgrades. They are structural forces driven by limited supply, permanent desirability, and future scarcity. And as I have learned over the years, when supply is limited and demand is consistent, appreciation actually becomes pretty predictable. Let's fast forward 10 years and see what happened. Today, their home is valued at approximately $1.85 million. And let's break down all these numbers real quick just in case you lost me. They bought the home for $640,000. It's now worth $1.85 million. That's a total gain of $1.210 million, all passive. No work on their part. They just lived in this house. And this wealth was created simply by purchasing and living in the right home. And it never would have happened if my clients had chosen to rent instead. Now, here's where this gets eye-opening. Their passive wealth broken down into time, this $1.21 million, of course, it didn't show up at once. It showed up quietly. $336 a day, $10,083 a month, $121,000 year after year. And after 10 years, the coolest part of it all, they didn't have to deal with tenants. They didn't have any repair calls. They didn't have to deal with property managers. They just had to own the property and maintain it. And here's the part that nobody talks about, their investment return. My clients bought this home with roughly $60,000 in down payment. And so when you run the math, this works out to about a 35% annualized return year over year like clockwork. Try finding that in savings account. Try finding that in the stock market. Try finding that in bonds, or even try finding that by renting. You won't. And now let's talk about taxes. All of this $1.21 million in appreciation has been tax deferred. In other words, they didn't have to pay it every single year. They will pay it if any taxes due when they sell it. Based on current laws, up to $500,000 of this gain will be tax-free when they sell the property, thanks to IRS Section 121. Real estate investors don't get this break. Stock market day traders don't get this break. Crypto traders definitely don't get this break. And renters, they get nothing and like it. This is only for folks who invest their money in primary residences. Now, let's contrast this to renting, and let's see if this same couple had made the decision to rent 10 years ago. And they start off with about the same monthly payment, and they lived in the same basic area, and they had the same basic lifestyle. And like most renters, their rent's probably going to increase between 4 and 5% a year. At the end of this 10-year period, they will have $0 in equity. They will have $0 in appreciation, and they will have $0 in tax-advantaged wealth. And they will have wasted $606,000 on rent. So they could either have $1.2 million in passive gains, or they could have $606,000 in losses as a renter. And here's the part that you just can't miss. Contrary to what many people may think, being a long-term renter isn't some neutral financial event. It's what I call extractive, meaning it actually takes your income, your wealth, your savings, and transfers it to a different person, your landlord. So to put it really simple, when you rent, you get poorer and somebody else gets richer. Now here's where this story goes from impressive to absolutely transformational. The passive wealth building associated with the appreciation on this property alone is very powerful. But when we layered in the total cost of ownership thinking, using my HomeBuck's TCO system, the outcome actually exploded. Total cost of ownership benefit number 1, financing optimization. This saved my clients about $9,000 a year, so over a 10-year period, about $90,000. And since my clients are thinking this is a long-term home for them, it's likely that they're going to save this same $9,000 every year for the next 20 years, so this would add up to an additional $180,000. These savings came from selecting a smarter amortization structure, from preserving their liquidity, from optimizing their interest rate structure, and then looking at their total financial picture using what I call a total wallet strategy. At the end of the day, money that stayed in their back pockets never got transferred to the bank, and this is a win. Total cost of ownership benefit number 2, utilities, energy, and maintenance. This probably saved our clients somewhere between $2,500 and $4,000 a year, so we're talking $25,000 to $40,000 over the 10-year period. These savings came from proactive maintenance, from looking at energy efficiency opportunities, from doing what's called life cycle planning, and also another term, cost of delay avoidance, which basically means instead of putting off something that you could do 2 years from now, if you do it today, you're going to see some long-term savings. These savings compounded just like you were putting money into an investment account. Total cost of ownership benefit number 3, eliminating what we call wealth leaks. This probably added another $3,000 to $5,000 to their annual savings, so over $30,000 to $50,000 over this 10-year period. And the savings here typically come from checking out their insurance to make sure that the policies are efficient, checking out how they're paying off other debt to make sure that we don't have what we call bad payoff timing. In other words, you're paying off the highest interest rate expenses first. The next is we're going to look at make sure that any improvements they do to the property that we focus on the high return on investment ones versus the low investment ones. And then last but not least, make sure that we identify any other hidden costs that's draining money from their budget. And so at the end of the day, the real total, when you add it all together, we start off with the $1.21 million in depreciation. We add the $90,000 for the financing savings. We add $25,000 to $40,000 for the operating savings, the energy efficiency stuff. We add an additional $30,000 to $50,000 in wealth leaks elimination. All total, it adds up to $1.35 to $1.39 million. And this was quietly, passively, and it was all a result of them owning their property correctly. Now here's the big misunderstanding about real estate. You don't need to flip houses. You don't need to have tenants. You don't need to speculate in real estate. You simply need to buy the right home and manage it with a total cost of ownership thinking. That's it. The bottom line, your home is either an expense or a financial machine. When done wrong, a home feels like an expense. When done right, it becomes a wealth engine, a tax shelter, and a passive growth wealth system. At the end of the day, you have the same payment, but wildly different outcomes. So your next step, if you want to know where you stand, I'd recommend that you take my Wealth Builders Home Score. It'll show you how your home ranks as a wealth asset. It'll show you whether it has high demand characteristics like we ideally look for. It'll show you your total cost of ownership strengths and weaknesses, where you're potentially leaking money, and how you too can accelerate wealth. It's fast and it's free, and it will change forever how you see housing. The link is in the description below. My name's Kerry Langley, and this is HomeBuck's Magic. Our mission is to encourage and guide families across our amazing country by giving them the strategies and the tools and the education they need to drive down the cost of buying and owning their dream homes, and to help make their American home affordable again. But we're not stopping here. Our first big goal is to help 1 million American families build at least $1 million in wealth through smarter home ownership. And we're doing it by sharing the best financial advice we can find, backed by the HomeBuck's TCO system and decades of real-world results. So if this message is just what you've been looking for, to put yourself on the road toward building household wealth, be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and click that notification bell. And if you're that kind of person, make sure and tell your friends so they can come along too. I don't want either one of you to ever miss out on our groundbreaking content. Because the truth is this, you may become wealthy by buying any home, but you're more likely to become more wealthy when you buy the right home in the right way and use the right strategy. And now you know exactly how to begin that journey. Thank you for your time today, and take care.